The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod. We're webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled about today's show. We've got so much to cover and a very exciting guest who's going to be joining us in just about 15 minutes here on the show. If you watched yesterday, you know I'm talking about David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs, a really trusted and respected, trusted and respected name in supplements for the autism community and for other communities as well. An amazing company. They make a wonderful line of products. And David's going to be here talking with us about some research that I think is going to really hit home to a lot of us, talking about prenatal care and about early diagnosis for autism. I was so excited about him being here this morning. And on my desk, I happen to have a recent copy, not the most recent, but the February-March edition of Autism File. Of course, we love Polly Tomey and the folks there at Autism File. And on the back of it, it just happened to be flipped over on my desk, and there it was, the very thing that we're going to be talking about, a Kirkman advertisement here. Did you know preconception care as well as prenatal care can protect the health of your baby? Introducing Before Baby. It's a whole line of products. And I don't know about you, but there was a time when my husband and I were considering having a second child, and we were very concerned about what our possibility of having another child with autism. I was old enough that ended up not working out for us, but I have so many friends who are having children who will call me and write me and say, hey, we're thinking about getting pregnant or we're pregnant. What can I do? Do you know, are there things that I can be doing to lessen the risk of me having a child with autism? So thrilled that we're going to be talking with David about that, but also about some really important information that I think every autism parent has a right to know about the risk factors and what they now currently know about diagnosing autism early and what their expectation is, what their kind of research that they're doing in the future. So we're going to talk about all of that with David. I'm really excited about this mission that he is on and the very poignant reason why he is on this mission. So we're going to have that in about 15 minutes. I want to remind all of you that this show is meant to be completely interactive, that we hope that you will write in. We have lots of different ways for you to participate. Emily's going to show you what some of those ways are. We look forward to hearing your questions, your comments, your suggestions. Whenever we have experts on the show, we love when you interact with them on our live format. There is a way for you to watch the show live, www.autism-live.com. And when you go there, there's a white box and it says, questions and comments, suggestions. We'll say open. We're leaving it 24 hours a day, 7 days a week open now. So even if you're not watching us live, you have the opportunity to comment. But if we are live, which is from 10 to noon Pacific time, that's 1 to 3 Eastern time, and you can do the math wherever you are in the world, you have the opportunity to ask our experts in live time. So if you have questions for the owner and founder of Kirkman Labs, David Humphrey, or about prenatal care or about, potential causes for autism and how we're getting it diagnosed earlier and what the plan is for the future, you have that opportunity to write in. And a little bit later today, we're going to have BCBA Evelyn Gould with us as well, answering some of the questions that you guys wrote in earlier this month. So all of that very exciting. At the top of the show, I always like to remind you that I sit here and I sort of host this party, if you will, but I'm not an expert in autism. And I want to be very above board and clear about that, gosh, I wish it were. And I'm constantly interested in getting more information about autism because it affects me directly. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He had the kind of autism that he regressed into it. And it was devastating to me at the time, and it was something that, fortunately, I happened to be in the right place at the right time and said the right words to somebody so that they knew that I had a child with autism, and that led to a cascade of me getting important information, which enabled us to help our son. My son had lost virtually all of his language and was just engaging in challenging behavior, self-injurious challenging behavior. But we got access to quality ABA therapy through the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. And now my son is 10 and he is getting ready to go into completely typical included 5th grade at the very top of his class. And he's a delight. We have not won the autism lottery in terms of he does not qualify yet for recovery, a term that we use here on the show from time to time for those kids who get to the point where they no longer qualify for a diagnosis. My son is not there, but he inches closer to it every day. And I will tell you that was a lot of my focus for a lot of years, that I wanted him to get that recovery stamp of approval. It is not so much my focus anymore, because more what is my focus is making sure that he is able to do the things that he wants to do. I think that translates to all of us. We want our children to be able to access and have access to the things that they want to do. And that is almost 100% where my son is right now. And I do not kid myself, that came about because we got help. And it wasn't because we had money, because I can show you the bank statement to prove that we did not have money. And I can assure you that it wasn't because I was so smart and so on it. That, I would love to lie to you and say that that's how we got it done. I was tenacious most of the time. There were days when I just, sat on the couch and cried and said, why can't I get services for my kid? Well, I don't understand. If they know these things help our kids, why don't they just give it to us? Or why do they make it so difficult, right? We certainly went through the fire, and it has left me in a place where Nancy Alspaugh-Jackson, who joins us on Wednesdays for Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy, she calls it the kitchen floor club, that at some point a lot of us get down on our knees in the kitchen floor and pray to the God of our understanding and say, I need some help here, and we make a bargain a lot of times. And my bargain, and I know a lot of your bargains and other people that we have on the show, we all kind of have this running theme. My bargain was, help me to help my child, and then I will find a way to help other people. So that's why I'm here, because I want to help you to find your answers. And it changes, and it's different in every state, and it's different for each one of our children. But I want to be able to help you to find the information that you need to be able to fulfill that sentence for yourself, to be empowered to help yourself, and to be empowered to help your child. I know a lot of you are watching this show who are not parents of children with autism. You yourself have autism. We welcome all of you. And we want to help all of you get access to services and information and the funding for those services. So we talk about autism from a 360-degree perspective. There's really nothing that's off limits as far as we're concerned. So let us know, what do you want to talk about? How do you want to talk about it? What do you want to see here? We love your questions. We love your suggestions. Now, we like to start every morning with something we fondly refer to as the jargon of the day. This is when we take one word, one phrase, one acronym, and we try to make sense of it within our everyday world. Most of us don't have a degree in psychology. Most of us are not board-certified behavior analysts. Most of us did not spend our college years researching and finding out what autism was. We had other paths, and then we either got a diagnosis ourselves or our child got a diagnosis, and suddenly suddenly we are thrown in the deep end of the pool with a bunch of jargon and asked to make sense of it. It's very overwhelming. But one of the things that I eventually came to, it took years, can I just say, because I used to be militant about, don't talk to me that way, tell it to me in plain language. But what I discovered was that that was not helping me to help my child, that I had to make friends with the jargon. So we don't want to be overwhelmed, and we don't want to be overwhelming here, but we take this one word, one phrase, one acronym, and if by doing just one little baby step every day, we learn something new that we can apply to our arsenal of information, right? Because that's what we need, is an arsenal of information. It empowers us. Okay, so today's phrase is sensory perception, and I promised you yesterday that we were going to talk about this a little bit today. So let's take a look at what our actual definition is. Sensory perception: conscious recognition and interpretation of sensory stimuli that serve as a basis for understanding, learning, and knowing, or for motivating a particular action or reaction. Yes, it's a lovely definition. I don't have time for this, so let's go to our working definition. What does sensory perception mean? Use of the senses to take in and understand information. Now, a lot of our kids have sensory processing disorders or issues. When you stop and think about all the sensory information that you're taking in on a moment by moment basis. You know, I'm sitting here in the studio and I'm in a box that has greatly muffled sound, right? It's supposed to be soundproof. It's greatly muffled, but there's a lot of things that I can hear right now, and there's lights, and every once in a while the air conditioning kicks on, and you know, there's a lot of visual stimuli going on here. I've got monitors and computers everywhere and input and things in my ear, so I'm hearing things, I'm feeling things, I'm taking all that in, and I have to find a way to process it in my brain so that it doesn't take up all of my time. If every time I was sitting here and talking to you and I went, oh, you know, somebody just walked into the control room, or the air conditioning kicked on, sometimes I do mention it, but if I mentioned it every time, it would be disruptive. When we think about our kids and the different places that we're going to put them, and we want them to learn while they're in these places. Think about a classroom and all the visual stimuli. I know teachers get so excited. I'm a former teacher, and you know, that whole thing about making sure that your classroom is conducive for learning, and sometimes we go overboard depending on what a child's sensory abilities are. You know, stuff plastered on every wall might be great for some kids. It's not going to be great for all kids. And there's a clock, and sometimes the clock makes a little tick as it moves, right? Or, you know, some classrooms have the digital clock now. There's the feel of the desks and what kind of floor and what are the smells in the room. And then you put all the other kids in and they're fidgeting and they're doing things. And, you know, at a certain age, some of the kids get a little bit of a funky smell to them, right? Or there's the jacket that they're wearing. One of the grades that I taught for a couple of years, 7th grade, and there's nothing like seventh grade for a cornucopia of smells of young people, right? All of these things are a part of our experience. We have learned, many of us, to inhibit our response to some of them, but it still informs the different things that we do. And then when you layer in things that, for instance, like the smell of smoke, if you're smelling smoke, it's going to hopefully enter into your consciousness, and you make decisions about, do I need to investigate? Do I need to evacuate, right? So there's all this sensory stuff going on, and not only is it going on with us, it's going on with other people, and we need to take that into consideration. We talked yesterday about sensory perspective taking. We're talking about perspective taking a lot of times, but we start that with teaching sensory perspective taking. So the child has an understanding, right now I'm smelling something, or I'm hearing the ice cream truck, but can my buddy over there hear the ice cream truck? And what are they going to do based on the fact that they can hear the ice cream truck? So it's a lot. It's a lot to process for any of us. And I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you felt sensory overloaded and what that felt like in the moment and what it felt like coming down off of that. And imagine what it must be like for our kids on a regular basis, that a lot of times they don't have the same filter that we have. We can help them to filter out noises. We can help them to learn how to inhibit their attention to different things so that they can focus on something. But you know, it does take some time and awareness. So that's why we're talking about this today, sensory perception. Okay, moving on. We always have a question. And by the way, if you don't get the sensory perception thing, stick around. You know, eventually it'll come to you. But sometimes it's the 18th time when something gets explained that we get something. But anyway, we do have our question of the day. Sorry, Emily. In any case, our question today is, what sensory issues do you or your child have? What do you have a hard time dealing with it? Is it noises? And sometimes people have a problem with loud noises, that if they're loud noises, it makes them jump. Other times people have problems with like faint noises in the background. I know that I have a problem. My son likes to play his video games and, you know, whether it's the iPad or whatever, and he likes to sit in the back seat. And a lot of them have very repetitive noises that get made, whether it's a song or it's a siren or something. And when I'm driving, it is enough to make me crazy. And I will frequently say to him, you have to turn the sound off. And he thinks the game is less fun with the sound off, so he turns it down so it's just barely audible. That's almost worse for me than if it was blaring. So sensory-wise, man, because if my ear tries to hear something and it can't, it tries to figure out, what am I hearing? And it takes up disk space. It really confounds what I'm trying to do and makes it so I can't concentrate. I'm not good with it. And then I go, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. But sensory issues are very interesting, because what's okay for one person is really not okay for another person. I always tell the story about going to a birthday party with my son when he was, I think he was just about to turn 5. And he had a buddy who was also on the spectrum, same age. And both, I'm there and his mom is there. And it was this party, and it was in a huge gym, but they had a little party room that you could go in to cut the cake and have the punch. And it was very interesting to me because my child was totally fine in the party room. It was way too loud. Somebody had spilled Kool-Aid. Everybody was in socks, and everybody's socks were sticking to the Kool-Aid floor. And there were kids everywhere and cake everywhere and people screaming in this very small echoey space. I couldn't handle it. So I literally went for the door and went back out into the open space gym and was like, to get a breath, because it was way too much for me sensory-wise. And out there, I see the other mom with her son, and she said, he's just not handling that room really well. And I said, well, you know, welcome to the club. I'm not handling it well either. And she said, but Jem's okay? I said, Jem's fine in there. And she said, do you want me to go in there with him? And I said, you can take it. You can take being in that room. She goes, yeah, it doesn't bother me. And I said, yeah, I'll stay with your kid if you go in and be with my kid. It was just very funny to us that I couldn't have been in there, and neither could her son, and they were fine. So there you have it. But write in and tell us what sensory issues that you or your child have, and feel free to tell us both. We'll check in on Facebook a little bit later to take a look at it. And I always remind you that on Facebook, when you put your answers, I know sometimes it feels like, well, you know, do I really need to give the answer? Who am I helping here? Well, sometimes it helps you to get it off your chest and to name it and claim it, but also it helps other people, because sometimes their child is having an issue and it hasn't occurred to them that it is sensory involved. And when you put it on Facebook, it reminds them, oh my goodness, you know, that could be what's going on with my child. It really does help people when you say what's going on with your child. Okay, we always have a topic of the week, and our topic this entire week, we're talking about 2 different things this week, actually. We're talking about success in the classroom, and we're also talking about cognitive issues, building cognition skills all available this week. So very exciting. We'll be filtering everything through that. Some of the different things that we have going on today, as I mentioned, our very special guest who's going to be joining us in just a minute, David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs. And we're going to be talking about prenatal care, things that you can be doing before you get pregnant, while you're pregnant, and in that first year of life to reduce your risk for autism. Very exciting bit of information. And then also he's going to be telling us about a study that he's been involved with for 1-year-olds. I think it's going to blow your doors off. Really, really excited to have David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs joining us. We're going to have healthy eating a little bit later on today, and making room with Evelyn Gould, who is a BCBA, will be with us. You guys had written in a bunch of questions over the break. We're going to try to address some of those and get Evelyn's take on things, because she always has a wonderful, wonderful outlook that it involves the, not only, I mean, she's a very skilled BCBA who worked with many children on the autism spectrum to great effect, but she is also awesome at taking into consideration the entire family's perspective of how things are going, and for all of us dealing with the emotional upheaval of what we have to deal with day to day, and not just poo-pooing it, but actually making room for the emotions. That's what we call it, making room with Evelyn. So all of this and more, we're going to take a break, and we are going to get David Humphrey on Skype with us so that we can be talking with him about these very important prenatal issues that we should all be concerned about. I know if it's not you, you've got a girlfriend who's thinking about getting pregnant and asking you questions about what can I be doing during pregnancy to reduce my child's risk for autism. Important stuff. David Humphreys after these messages. Stick with us. I'm Shannon Penrod, and I'm here at the Taka Family Picnic with my family. Yay! There are so many fun things to do and see here, and we're going to get started right now. We're going to go get our picture taken. Stick with us. Okay, so we just got our family photo done. Let's go see what else they have fun to do here at the Taka Family Fun Picnic. Come on, you guys, let's go. You said you watch our little show? Yeah. We love you, Diana. We are here with Kristen Selby Gonzalez, and you are a mom. You're a parent of a child on the spectrum?
Absolutely. He was diagnosed when he was 2 years, 4 months, and he's 11 now.
And how's he doing?
He's doing awesome. We were told he was never going to look, he was never going to talk, that the best thing we could do was get him to use a spoon and a fork and to get him potty trained by the time he was 8, because the doctors told us he'd be in a group home. And today he's looking, he's talking more, he's riding a bike. Yes, he's potty trained. He does gymnastics twice a week. He's learning to read and write, and the sky's really the limit for him.
Now, I understand that you also work with a foundation that helps and supports Taka.
I was appointed as president and chairman of a nonprofit called the Autism Hope Alliance.
So cool, and it all sprang from being a mom.
It all sprang from my little boy. I mean, honestly, he is the voice. I just kind of get to do the legwork, but it's him pushing me. I had 3 miscarriages before him. He is my only child, and to me, this is like what I'm here to do right now. This is what I'm supposed to be doing, and it's the greatest reward when I have another mom come up to me who just recently got diagnosed and says, I need help. And so us veterans out here, that's what we call ourselves. We've been here for a while, right? Our job is to help those other moms understand they don't have to reinvent the wheel. The path has already been laid, and all they have to do is kind of follow the path and see what makes sense for them.
Amen, sister. Amen. Right now, I am with the Riley family, a wonderful Taka proud family. We're with the mom, Holly, daughter, Fiona, and Quinn, who's down there. Tell us what Taka means to you.
I've been helped so much by other parents who came before us with our journey with autism, and we've been so fortunate that Quinn has done so well. He's considered recovered from autism. We're really happy to be able to volunteer and help out because, you know, we've gotten so much from the other families.
And I want to know, as a sibling, is this a really fun event for you?
Oh my gosh, it is so fun. Plus the samples. It's not usual that I have all this food that I can eat this, and I can eat this.
Do you keep the whole family GFCF?
Yeah, it's important to note Fiona is gluten-free, casein-free. We're also soy-free. Quinn can't do corn, so we've got lots of foods we're always avoiding, and it's really nice to be able to be in a place where we can just sample a lot of things, and you still have to be careful.
Can I go play now, please?
I love that, please. Tell me one thing. What's your favorite thing at this picnic?
The jousting and the bounce house, period.
Good answer. All right, go have fun and play.
My name is Summer Dabbs. I'm here from Fullerton Cares, and we are at the Taka Family Picnic event today. Fullerton Cares is an autism coalition, and we strive to bring awareness, acceptance, and action, meaning fundraising, to all resources for autism, especially the Fullerton School District autism programs. We're here to provide the food for all the guests at the picnic. We have GFCF options for those who require that diet, and we also have killer epic burritos for everyone else. We are also offering frozen bananas, chocolate-covered bananas that are absolutely fabulous. So we're here to help out Taka and donate some food for the cause.
What I'm here with is Beauty Society. We've got the families thinking about what they're putting in their bodies, but we also need to think about what we're putting on our skin. And what's really something is there's a lot of chemicals, a lot of toxins out there that we're trying to get rid of. Our skin is absorbing that. So Beauty Society is here because we have a lot of things that we don't put in them. We don't put parabens, there's no sulfates, there's no perfume. It's also gluten-free. Some other things that I have, of course, is makeup, which is always fun. And I love teaching teenagers, especially kids on the spectrum, how to take care of their skin. Because what we find is a lot of the kids tend to have more acne that are on the spectrum. And I want to teach them things that they can use for the rest of their life.
Lauren Kim is here with us, and you were just telling me that you have a really nice position. Tell me what your position is.
Hi, I'm the president of Troy High School's Autism Youth Ambassadors. The AYA mission is to break down the barriers between those with autism and those without. And
you said you've been doing this for 3 years. Who started this? Whose idea was it, and why did they come up with the idea?
Two amazing people. They were the founders. Their names are Ralph and Minaj. They've come up with the idea because they were personally affected with family members who had autism. Our advisor, Mrs. Flavel, she has a son with autism. They came up to her and asked to start an autism awareness club at school.
Did you get involved because friends of yours got involved, or is there autism in your family, or did you know somebody?
Well, there is autism in my life, not specifically in my family, but of course my mother's friends, sons are affected, and even my personal friends are affected at school.
One of the best things about coming to an event like this is getting to meet people that you've only talked to on Facebook or an email. And so I'm so thrilled because I just got to meet Nancy Dulai.
Hi, do you want to talk?
You want to say something to us?
I have no idea what that was, but okay.
You're a mom who has been on this journey only a short period of time, but you're already giving back. You were here today and you did face painting for all these kids. We saw all this beautiful artwork.
Did you like it?
It was gorgeous, gorgeous stuff on their face. And so you're making your way on this journey.
Yes, and Card and Skills has been a huge, and your show has been huge. And I refer everybody to them. I'm like, they don't know what to do. I'm like, go check this out. It's a good site. It's, lots of information. It's been great.
So nice to meet you.
Can you say bye, Shannon?
Do you blow kisses?
Can you give a kiss? She wants to kiss you. She's trying to reach over. Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Say bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Welcome back to Autism Live. As promised, our very special guest joining us via Skype is David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs. There we are, David. Welcome to Autism Live.
Hi, thank you very much for having me here.
We're thrilled to have you. I have said before on the show that Kirkman Labs, very trusted, perhaps the most trusted name in the field of supplements and things that you can use biomedically to help your child on the autism spectrum. But you have a wide variety of products that aren't just for autism. And really remarkable. Our family has used Kirkman, and I, first of all, have to start by saying that I'm a big fan and that I thank you so much for everything that you have done for the autism community.
Well, thank you. It has been the best years of my life, spent during the last 12 years taking over from my father, who did this for 20 years. So,
wow.
I'm trying to help finish what he started.
Well, it is an amazing journey that you are on, and we had a couple of things that we specifically wanted to talk about today, and one of them in particular is, I was mentioning before, I saw this morning, I was looking at my Autism File magazine, and you have this lovely ad on the back of an edition of the Autism File magazine about prenatal care. And I know when I spoke to you yesterday, you mentioned one of the reasons why you have been so particular about this is an association with Bernie Rimland. And for people who are new to the autism world, who perhaps haven't heard that name, they really should know more about Bernie Rimland. Tell us a little bit about who Bernie Rimland was and what your connection with him was.
Bernie is known as the father of the modern autism movement. In the 1950s, when he had a son, Mark, that was diagnosed with autism, it was relatively unknown and thought to be cold mothers that were neglecting the child. Bernie basically changed that single-handedly. And then the second major way was he was able to introduce the fact that these children have serious medical problems that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
And Bernie was the visionary, really, of this movement, and he was my mentor. I was his attorney for 10 years, and so I had a rare opportunity to really understand the way the great man thought, and he was absolutely parent advocacy all the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you had mentioned that, of course, we lost Dr. Rimland a couple of years ago, but before he died, you were able to have conversations with him about, because he was a visionary, and he shared with you his vision of where we needed to go with autism, and it has affected what you have been, how you've been spending your time, correct?
Correct. I spend maybe 90% of my time with nonprofit foundations, and I've been on the board of most of the major ones. And what I try to do is I try to take the vision that he had at his death, and I was with him, and the main vision that Bernie had is that autism can be prevented in the womb, and if not prevented in the womb, can certainly be prevented by the age of 1. With micro gestures that occur with 1-year-olds, that we can get a foretelling of the fact that we'll become autistic by 2.5. So the reason why Bernie was interested in this is that he felt that much of the genetic research was going to go the way of the Down syndrome community, which was genetic markers would be used for abortions. And that's exactly what's happened with Down syndrome, is 94% of the babies are aborted before they're born. He thought that would be an unbelievable tragedy, since these children, he felt, if properly treated, could grow to be wonderful people within the community and loving children for the families. So this has really been my life's work, is trying to establish those two areas. And I'm pleased to say that we've been able to really accomplish, I think, both.
Okay, awesome. Let's start by talking about the prenatal care and things that you can do. I know I had considered having another child, and that didn't work out for us because of my age, but so many parents are out there who have a child who's on the spectrum, and they're thinking about getting pregnant, but they're concerned, or they have a girlfriend who's pregnant and calling them up and saying, what can I be doing before pregnancy and during pregnancy to reduce my child's risk? What do you know, and what would you suggest to people who are asking those questions?
Well, what we did is we went to those doctors that have been successful in treating autism medically, and we interviewed extensively over a year 5 doctors that had about 1,000 live births. David Berger out of Florida had 500, where he practiced preconception and prenatal care by reducing toxicity in the womb, avoiding prescription drugs, avoiding toxic exposures. having mom take an unbelievable healthy diet, and then during the first 2 years of infancy, keeping them away from those things that would tend to interfere with a developing gastro and immune system. Here's remarkable numbers. Out of David's 500 patients, he's yet to have one child with autism, even though the primary practice are high-risk parents. This is consistent with the other doctors. So we've brought together 20 of the top scientists and business people in the world to say, can we develop this into a population study? And we just recently have a approval of a major population study using these techniques with 1,000 women that will become pregnant. We believe these techniques will not only lower the rate of autism, but also lower the rate of other childhood diseases that are affected by neurological problems in the womb. Science is supporting this more and more. This is a huge breakthrough. The second is that we believe that it also will reduce the chance of preterm birth, which is 12% in this country, and also miscarriages, which are amazingly 31% of all the pregnancies end in miscarriage. So we feel this has got full support of the scientific community that we've been contacting, and we've talked to CDC, and they have full support. So we're very excited to move ahead on it.
Absolutely. It's very exciting. I want to go over those numbers again. So out of 500 live births, and a lot of them were at risk, or they were all at risk parents that already had a child with autism. Is that correct?
Right.
And out of 500 live births, in using these techniques of making sure that they reduced the amount of toxins that they were exposed to and had a healthy diet, and making sure that they had correct supplements, not one of those children has ended up having autism.
Not one.
Which is statistically kind of amazing, correct?
Well, it should be 17%. Actually, Bernie, back in 1990, pointed me in the direction of a study called the Foresight Study, which took 367 women and men that were high risk and put them through a very similar protocol. It was published. It was done by Carl Pfeiffer, a prominent scientist, and they found that out of the 367, they had 327 live births. The miscarriage rate went from close to 20% down to zero. Preterm went down to zero. And they had no examples of the 327 live births of any childhood disease.
Wow.
So we had some statistical information, and this actually, because it wasn't well understood, we hadn't even done the smoking literature to indicate that toxins from smoke were affecting the baby. So what's happening is it's really at the same stage we were when folks were smoking cigarettes and thinking that wasn't affecting their lung cancer, and all of a sudden everybody put it together. My guess is this is the biggest single development in maternal care. And if we look at the cost of maternal care in this country, it is a $50 billion price tag, of which $30 billion can be saved by using these techniques.
Wow. And I know the question that viewers are going to ask is, where can I find the protocol? Where can I find the step-by-step of what I have to do to be able to duplicate these results for myself?
Well, again, this is not being handled as a commercial project.
Right.
This is done through the nonprofit foundation. And we're the ones that did the ATN medical protocols for autism, so we've had a long history of doing things well. The protocol will be likely published around January. We're going to do CME courses for doctors. We're going to have handbooks for parents. It'll be a very detailed protocol. And just to give you a quick hint, if somebody wants to do it right away, it's avoid toxins from all sources, high levels of vitamin D, between 40 and 60 nanograms, which is about 4,000 IUs of vitamin D a day, high levels of zinc, which are necessary for reproduction. The other novel part of this is we're developing blood spot and urine spot tests that will be able to exactly measure how much pesticides a woman has in her system and how many metals she has. So we can basically say you were in a safe range or you're in a risk range. And again, just really quickly, Johns Hopkins just came out with a study that the higher the amount of pesticides, the more irregular and faster the heartbeat is of the fetus. So we know this is one of thousands of studies that are providing support and correlation that were affecting the child and were affecting the brain. And it's resulting in a lot of these problems.
Wow, amazing. And I would imagine that you've got a whole line of nutritional products here that were on this Autism File magazine that are beneficial for this protocol as well.
Well, one of the reasons why Kirkman's been selected, not just because I'm on the foundation, is because we have a standard that any supplement has to be tested for pesticides and metals. And right now, Kirkman's 950 testing tests every single batch and every single product. We found that in other prenatal supplements that were tested by Duquesne University, some of them contain levels of mercury and uranium that are 100 times safe levels. Most of these were made in China. So it's the reason why Kirkman has gone ahead and invested in the technology to guarantee each product meets the very strict Prop 65 standards in California. And again, the study was chosen because you can't give a woman prenatal supplements containing uranium and then measure her and find uranium and be happy about it. So the product was chosen, and we're supplying it without a profit to us, but it's done to make sure that everything is clean. Food is clean, water is clean, supplements are clean. It's absolutely essential. Trace amounts of contamination at the wrong time. The brain develops starting about the 8th week to the 12th week. That's the major developmental time. Toxicity at that time can cause a lifetime of a problem. And actually, some of these toxins can last for 4 generations in the mothers, according to recent research.
Absolutely amazing what you're doing. And all the more reason, if you're thinking about getting pregnant or you're getting pregnant, make sure that you're taking supplements that are safe. Make sure that you're using Kirkman Labs. David, we're going to take a little bit of a break, but when we come back, I want to talk with you about a study that you've been involved with about testing 1-year-olds, because I know we're concerned about how to prevent it in autism in the womb, but then, checking in at 1 and seeing what's happening and differences we can make once our children are already here. So we're gonna stick with David, but we're gonna take a short break, and we'll be back after these messages.
Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, and this is my son, Jem. We're here today at the Home Depot. You might know that Home Depot is famous for giving free classes to adults on lots of things like tiling and other home crafts. Well, they also have free classes for kids as well. It's called the Kids Workshop. We love doing that, don't we, Jem?
Yeah.
It's cool. So come on inside with us and let's do a craft.
Yay.
The Kids Workshop is a program that's been around with Home Depot almost since we've been a company, and it's been developed to allow kids in the community to come in and give them an opportunity to build something, to be able to create something and be able to take just simple wood pieces and put them together with nails and hammers and screwdrivers and then paint them.
So you do this every first Saturday of the month.
Any Home Depot that you go to on the first Saturday of every month between 9 and 12, you can join different associates throughout different stores and build these projects with these kids.
And do they have to do anything beforehand, or can they just show up on that Saturday?
All they need to do is show up. We have all the tools, all the materials that the kids will need. We have aprons that we give to the kids that they can take home and maintain their pins. They get pins on a regular basis for completing projects. With that, they can keep track of how many projects they've done. And
it's all free.
It's all absolutely free, all provided.
Which is wonderful. And Wilson, I have to say, you guys devised this for all kids to be able to do this.
Correct.
What I particularly love about it as an autism mom, it gives my child a place to come and learn a new skill, to socialize with kids of all kinds.
Absolutely. And that's what we're here for. Home Depot is definitely loves to be involved with the community and bring the community in to work with us. That's what we love to do.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest joining us via Skype right now is David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs. And David, during the break, you were talking to me a little bit about when the light bulbs came on about autism. So tell the folks at home what you were saying to me.
Well, most of your audience understands that autism is not a hardwired genetic condition. However, when Stanford University did a study several years ago, they ended up by saying that approximately around 65% of autism is caused with toxicity and problems, environmental contaminants in the womb. And what happened then was a guy called Dr. Peshoff went ahead and took blood spot samples of newborns that turned to be autistic and compared those to normal samples of children that didn't become autistic. And then with the great man, Phil Lundgren, who is a leading environmental toxicologist in the country from Mount Sinai, they've actually listed the top 20 chemicals that are causing autism in the womb. Mm-hmm. And it's really scary suspects. It's mercury, it's lead, it's organophosphates, and it's organochlorines. And by being able to understand how those pesticides affect neurological connections, we now have really a requirement to bring this to people's attention.
Yeah.
And again, with a rate of 1 in 50, and really the rate for newborns is likely projected at 1 in 35 today, because these are 8-year-olds when they measured it last time. Mm-hmm. We have to start to bring this to people's attention and start to change this.
Absolutely. I concur completely. And I mentioned before the break that when we came back, we were going to talk about a study that you've been involved with involving 1-year-olds. So tell us about that study.
Well, part of the program we have called P2I is preconception through infancy. Mm-hmm. So here's the question. Not everybody is going to start with preconception 6 months before pregnancy. Half the pregnancies are not planned. Mm-hmm. There are some people that won't even hear about the reduced toxicity. So they may have a child born that starts to show signs of autism around 2.5, and then severe symptoms and regressive autism. So the question is, we got a group of scientists together led by Margaret Bowman out of the Ladders program at Harvard, who I think is the best on the planet in terms of a competent researcher in this area. So the question was asked, can we find microgestures and biomarkers at the age of 1 that are very, very subtle signs? And can we demonstrate and prove that those are predictive of regressive autism? So the research team, studying the literature and studying the programs that have been done, found that researchers can look at blinded samples after they've been trained, and they're able to estimate at a 50% accuracy that this child will become autistic.
Okay.
So remember now that we're starting to diagnose kids at the age of 7 or 8. That's like leaving kids on the side of the road in an accident for 10 days, right? Mm-hmm. So if we can go ahead combining the preconception, pregnancy to reduce the risks, but then with a 1-year-old, what happens if we can get 50%? The second part of the paper is that interventions can be very significant. A prominent researcher did a pilot program that we took a look at, and that pilot program was they took 35 of these children that had high risk for autism. That means half of them would have developed regressive autism and maybe a lifetime of difficulty and struggle in their lives. Those 35 children were put through a program called the Early Denver Start Model, which is an ABA program. They also looked at their medical condition. Okay, this is absolutely incredible. What happened was for those 35 where the intervention was done, and the intervention was ABA and medical, of the 35, 17 didn't develop regressive autism. None. 35 out of 35 did not develop autism. However, the average IQ was 127. And for you folks out there, that means you got an A student rather than a C student or a B student.
Yeah.
And now here comes this fundamental question. Is autism, by being able to have those kinds of increases with proper training, is autism a regressive gene? Just like Temple Grandin says, we're the people that build the bridges. We're the people that do the science. You folks are the ones that yak around the campfire. So here's the danger. One of the reasons for so much genetic research is to locate the combination of genes in the womb to recommend abortions. And the tragedy that Dr. Rimland saw is rather than pursuing the science and rather than developing techniques to be able to restrict the amount of problems that the child will have at 2.5, by strengthening the middle cortex of the brain, the other solution is to abort the child. It was just crazy. It's like sterilizing people in the 30s. In fact, there's a term for it. It used to be called eugenics. And this new movement is called nugenics. And in China, a law was passed that all children that have serious genetic issues will be compulsively aborted. So what I want to do is I want to alert this community. that we're on the verge of being able to go ahead and have a brand new view of autism, a view that will allow us to put a lot more resources into helping children and adults in the autism community and put the attention where we need it. Money going into helping people with the condition and then shutting off the spigot so that new children will not need these same kind of services. So what I want to say is this is a central issue for our community because there's only a finite amount of money. And we want that money going to teenagers and adults. My foundation is also starting to take a look at what are the medical protocols that should be for adults. I've had several close friends that have lost their children. The death rate for adults with autism in the 20s and 30s by the Simons Foundation is 10 times higher than the normal population. It's from neglect. It's the same neglect that we had with medical conditions with children, we have with adults. So how are we going to get those resources to train the doctors and to get attention to this terrible problem of heart and seizure disorders with adults? We do this by being able to take the focus off the increase, slow down the rate of increase, and then focus on people with the condition and their families to provide necessary services and to treat people with great respect. I think all of us are sick and tired of this community being poorly treated by professional communities.
Well, David, you're inspirational to listen to, and I'm sure that our viewers, as we're watching, and so much information that you just gave us, I want to go back over a couple of different things. So being able to test and see whether a 1-year-old with a 50% accuracy may develop, is that something that people have access to?
The study should be published. It was done we got 26 of the top researchers together. It's taken us 2 years. We're on the final draft, so it should be published. We're looking forward to being published in Pediatrics. At that time, we will have a checklist of the 10 warning signs that parents can use themselves on a 1-year-old. And then we'll try to direct that toward people that can go ahead and give a more accurate diagnosis.
Okay.
And then we'll develop this very simple technique for intervention. This will take time to develop. However, as long as we move in the right direction and we know where we're going, we can manage the expectations. But here's what I feel is we can't wimp out on vision. What is the vision? Medical, accessible to everybody within driving distance, the latest technology available to all parents, and a focus on the government on serving the needs of existing people. So those are our focuses, and I think within 3 years, we'll try to institute the 1-year-old program. In the meantime, we'll have a website trying to explain it once the paper is published. So it'll be a self-help for people, and we'll get that out in the autism community right away.
Amazing, because I got emotional when you were talking about it. When I think about what my life was like from the time that my child was 1 until he turned 2, and how I watched my child slowly disappear from me. I used to say, and I still say, that it was like a thief was coming in the night and taking pieces of my child. And I kept on saying, something's lost, something is little by little. And it was so gradual that everybody thought that I was crazy. And if sometime down the road, if 5 years from now, another mom can be spared that and everything that came in the years after that, that's very emotional for me. I think about what my child would have been spared if we could have known that at a year and cut that all off at the pass. That is life-changing.
Well, I think all of us in our lives understand that we have difficulty and make sacrifices. And when we do, the greatest calling is to be able to work so that others that we don't even know the names of don't have to go through the same experiences.
Yes.
And that is, to me, you asked me about Dr. Rimland. What Dr. Rimland taught me when I first met with him, he said, David, you will never meet a parent with a child with autism that you will not like. And I didn't quite understand that. I was an attorney, and I was sort of a tough guy, and my life was not liking people, right? And I'm still going on trying to find the first parent I don't like. The sacrifice, the generosity, the feeling of part of a community, it's my privilege. And I just thank each day that I can be part of this.
Well, I am thankful that you are a part of this. I always say, brighter minds than mine are working on this, and what a thrill to know that you're working on this, and you are a brighter mind, and you, sir, are a visionary. And I look forward to furthering this conversation with you on the show and hearing more about what happens. Now, if people have questions, obviously they can go to the Kirkman Lab site, and they can see the products that you have there and read more about the Kirkman story and your level of concern and your constant testing to make sure that people are getting pure supplements. They can read all about that on the Kirkman site. But is there a place that if they want more information about either of the studies that you talked about that they can go to?
Well, the Northwest Autism Foundation is the foundation I'm part of, so we'll be publishing a lot of information about P2I and the one-year-old study. It's the group that founded ATN, which is the big university group, so it's a very good group, and I've got an awful lot of very talented board members. So that's really the central site, and I'll remember to post that on the Kirkman as well.
Well, I thank you so much for everything that you do and for all of this information, which I'm sure is going to make a lot of people very excited.
Okay, and I have to go ahead and end this with what Bernie always told me, and that was treatment now.
Yes.
Treatment now.
Yes. Words to live by. Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us, and I hope you'll consent to be on the show again.
Oh, would love to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was the amazing David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs, truly a visionary, very exciting information about how we can prevent autism, whether we're talking about prenatal, in the womb, or at a year. Really amazing things that they're doing there at Kirkman Labs. We're going to take a break, and we're going to come back with a healthy eating tip. Stick with us.
Nick was diagnosed with autism in 1994 at the age of 4. He received 5 years of therapy from CARD that eventually faded out. Nick recovered from autism in 2001.
The song I'm about to perform is by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. CARD helped many patients, myself, to recover to this level now.
Cheryl and Mike's son, Jack Riley, was diagnosed with autism in 2010 at age 2. He's been receiving therapy from CARD for a year and a half. Today, Cheryl, Mike, and Nick meet for the first time.
I'm curious as to what you remember.
I certainly remember pretty long sessions, and I'd be frustrated if I would make mistakes. I mean, I remember one time I had to count a row of 6 blocks, kept messing up. That was really difficult.
No.
I need it.
At what point do you recall hearing the word autism?
I was able to figure out what I was going through without anybody having to tell me.
Our concern is if it's a big secret to hide. I don't know what we can say.
No one ever told you, you just discerned
But
it?
the reason I'm comfortable talking about this is because I felt it. In therapy, I certainly began questioning why people reacted as they did based on what I said and did. Particularly because of difficulties I was facing in school. It got to a point where I wanted to understand why it was. So I entered while still going through therapy and still showing significant signs of the mental condition. Even after I'd improved to a significant extent, there were those who still gave me a hard time for it.
Did it hurt your feelings when you were in school, the way that kids...
Oh, absolutely, because it was bullying, it was harassment.
That scares us.
They called me names. I was basically, when it came to sports and PE, I was usually the last kid chosen.
Did teachers intervene?
Fortunately, not really. I mean, it was just so hard for me to talk about it because of how ashamed I felt. Certainly the first few years of elementary school, I don't think I really had the most supportive teachers. I mean, I remember my mom told me how my first grade teacher once said that she thought I had no chance of getting anywhere. And going away to college and out of state and being the only person from my old school district has made a difference. It's just really improved my social life tremendously because I got to be me, because with nobody knowing about my past, I wasn't faced with these misconceptions and prejudgments.
Do you tell people, new people that you meet?
No, that's not the first thing I will ever
No, I would
tell
hope it's not the
and
first thing.
You know what? In most cases, I never do, because while it's a part of my past, it doesn't define who I am. I mean, just thinking back to the very beginning, pretty much each episode, autism, what, not who.
I want to tell you right now, though, I'm so impressed with you.
Likewise.
I want you to know that.
Likewise. I mean, your son really inspires me just as much, because I'll tell you, anytime
I adore him, but I'd be lying if I said it wasn't challenging.
I mean,
it's cost me the stuff that like career things, goals. I don't care about those anymore. I work at night. I'm tending bar. Not that I'm too good for that. I'm just saying that's what I do. I want him to have a chance.
Right.
And you inspire me now.
Thank you. The feeling goes both ways. The feeling's mutual.
Before you leave today, we would like you to meet Jack.
I would love to.
This is Nick.
Hi, Nick.
Hey, Jack Riley.
All right, should we try this? I'm going to try to take a picture of all of you. 1, 2, and 3.
Jack Riley, you rock.
Welcome back to Autism Live. It's Tuesday, so we always talk about our healthy eating tip. And I had planned to talk about one thing, but since we just talked to David Humphrey and he mentioned the importance of reducing toxicity, I want to revisit the organophosphates. Did you hear him say that organophosphates were one of the things on the list of things that we need to either eliminate or minimize? Organophosphates are in most pesticides that are used commercially on the vegetables and the fruits that we are having access to in the grocery store. And I know I'm somebody who has always been into all natural, and I don't want all the chemicals, and I don't want the preservatives, and I don't want all the artificial food colors and flavors. There's a joke in my family that when my sister's oldest child was 5, this was like 1987, I took him to the movie theater, and it was the time 1987 at the movie theater. They had flavored popcorn. It wasn't just caramel corn or regular corn or butter or no butter. There was grape popcorn. Grape. It was purple. It was disgusting. It was horrible. And they always had these places in the mall, and it was the flavor of the day popcorn. Artificial everything, right? And my nephew was 5, and he said, I want the grape flavored popcorn. And I said, please, it's full of preservatives and artificial colors. And he slung his little hand up on the counter and he said, Aunt Thanon, we like preservatives. And it was this whole thing about how, and he was teasing me, he was 5 and had a little bit of a lisp. And he said to me, someday when you have a child, I'm going to stick him at the end of a long hallway, and I'm going to tie you up at the other end of the hallway, and I'm going to feed him preservative sandwiches, because he understood this was my idea of torture, right? So I've always been somebody who was aware of those kinds of things. But on the organic thing, I was like, well, I know it's better for the environment. Does it really make a difference to us? And then somebody introduced me to a study that came out 2 years ago, and it really made a different level of sense to me, because these organophosphates, which are pesticides, and I'm somebody who likes to look at a word and take it apart and, see what the word means and what the Greek and the Latin, right? So pest, we know, pests, bugs, and side, which means death. So it's the death of the bug, right? All these years, I thought that that's what pesticides did. They killed the bug. But that's not what organophosphates do. They don't kill the bug. And my thing was, well, they kill the bug, and if they killed us, we would notice. There would be a change, right? So they aren't harmful to us. But my premise was false, because they don't kill the bugs. What organophosphates do is they disrupt the neurotransmitters in the bug. So they don't kill the bug, but they disrupt their neurotransmitters. And what they do is disrupt it so that it doesn't know what to do. It makes it hard for the bug to focus, so the bug can't eat or doesn't eat. And it gives it kind of essentially, in layman's terms, restless leg syndrome, so that it makes their legs want to move constantly so that they're distracted and don't eat. It makes them hyperactive. And in some cases, it makes them so hyperactive that we've seen this with other disorders, that if somebody gets so much movement, what happens is the brain sort of freezes and they become catatonic, frozen. That's what it does to the bugs. And in doing this, either making them hyperactive, or if you really put the amount of pesticide on them, it will freeze them, so they starve to death because they don't know how to feed themselves. That's what it does to the bugs. And you might think to yourself, well, okay, wait a second. Is there a possibility that it is doing those things to us? Could it make us so that we are more distractible? And could it make us hyperactive? And if it could do that to an adult, what does it do to a child or to a baby? If we're disrupting neurotransmitters, and does it also disrupt the neurotransmitters of children? So this was the question of the study. Is there an impact on the neurotransmitters of a child? Does it make them hyperactive? And so they did this very scientific study to look at children, and they measured their activity and their hyperactivity and their distractibility, and they also measured in their urine the amount of organophosphates found in the urine, and there was a direct correlation. The children who were more hyperactive were the children who had the higher level. And by the way, if you look at the study, it only took a very small amount of organophosphates to make a big difference in the hyperactivity. So I saw that study and I went, whoa, that's a whole other kettle of fish then. And we went as organic as I humanly possibly can. I try not to be crazy about it. You know, if we're out in a restaurant, I prefer to go someplace now, and I notice when they say we have organic produce. But if we need to eat someplace, I try not to be a crazy person about it, because we all need to be sane, right? But I try to minimize the exposure. We try to be very cognizant of the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15 lists that are put out by EW, Environmental Working Group. We have had Ken Cook on the show. We've done an interview with him before. Amazing gentleman who gives you all kinds of information on his website, environmentalworkinggroup.org. There are a list of 12 things that none of us should be having unless it's organic, because they are known to be heavily covered in pesticides. And then there are 15 things, and sometimes they bump it up so that there's 14 things depending on the year and how tests are coming in. But there are 15 things that they say, you know, we've done studies on these extensively, and it seems like even if pesticides are used, the amount that's left in the vegetable is negligible or non-existent, that it's a good risk. It's better to be organic with everything, but budgetary concerns, you know, it kind of gives you some choices that you can make. So we try to really adhere to the Dirty Dozen and the Clean 15. I saw a huge difference in myself, and I saw a huge difference in my son as a result of having taken those toxic elements out of our diet. Now, more studies are being done, and we're going to hear more information about this. And of course, you know that there's always going to be pushback, right? Because it does take a little bit more time, thought, and consideration to be organic, and it takes a good 7 years in some states for land to be considered organic, right? So there is a transition time. I know we go to the farmers market and we talk to the farmers there who are in transition or who are doing sustainable practices and are saying, you know, we're not even in the transition time because it costs us too much, but we are not spraying. We are not using organophosphates. And those are the words that you need to say to people. Are you using organophosphates? And if they are, steer clear. It isn't good for you. It isn't good for your child. It isn't good for anyone. And I would also say, make your voice be heard. Whenever I go to a grocery store, if the produce people are there and they're loaded, I ask, where is the organic stuff? You know, I'm only getting organic stuff. I try to let the businesses that I support through my patronage, I let them know I am concerned about this, and keep applying pressure. I know every time I go into Costco, I fill out the little card saying, get more organic produce. And we vote with our dollars, right? So I would urge you to look at what you're doing and know the facts about what pesticides actually do and what they do to the pest and what they have the potential to do to us and to our kids. It's a little mind-boggling. We don't have to be frightened, but we can be mindful and empowered by it. So my advice is go as organic as you possibly can. Be mindful of the clean 15 and be really mindful of those dirty dozen and limit or eliminate. It is healthier for everyone. And check out the restaurants that say that they're using organic produce. It tastes better, I swear. I know people tell me I'm crazy, but I do. I think it tastes better. Okay, we are going to take a break, and I think we're going to take a look at what your answers to the question of the day are, and then in a little while we're going to be joined by Evelyn Gould, BCBA Board-Certified Behavior Analyst, who is going to be talking with us about making room for all the things that are going on and answering some of your questions. So stick with us.
Say hi, we say hi. Let's get wild, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Hi, welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman, Executive Director of TACA. We're gonna bake again.
All right.
It's my lovely assistant.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Lucero.
We've heard so many people go, I want a decent chocolate chip cookie for my kid to eat. We've got all our dry ingredients. So I've got the flour, I've got the flaxseed meal, baking soda, baking powder, our gum, or xanthan gum.
Great.
So we're gonna get started in the mixer here. So those are dry ingredients. I do have brown sugar. We did cut this down. And the one way to do that is my favorite, and that's maple syrup. I'm using egg for this recipe, but we could use more arrowroot and also the flaxseed meal. So I'll go ahead and throw my eggs in here, which I love doing. So, and then the last thing is a shortening and gluten-free casein-free butter replacement. So I'm going to go ahead and throw this in. I've let it sit out for a while so it's nice and soft. So let's go ahead and mix this thing well. These are dairy-free, soy-free, and I really like them. Again, Enjoy Life is a great product. It's also net-free. And chocolate chips are a personal thing. I won't judge you if you use the whole bag.
I would.
I know, right? So here we go. Great recipe. It's the nice consistency. Everything's ready to go, so we can enjoy our cookies here in just about 10 minutes. We want to give it a kind of like a couple inches between each cookie. You know, a lot of people are really concerned about aluminum, so what I've done is I laid down my natural brown parchment paper, and Jen's helping out putting the cookies down. So we're separating the nice baked good that's all organic from the aluminum cookie sheets. So let's go put these in. So magic oven allows me to pull the last ones out. And voila.
Yum, that's good.
Really great cookies. I'll let you have a bite so you can do my Vanna White there too. Yeah, these taste pretty good.
Really good.
We're going to come back later after I gain 5 pounds and eat this entire tray.
For sure.
You know, more feedback is good. So if there's something you want us to convert, like another recipe or maybe a relative made, just let us know, autismlive@gmail.com. You can go to Facebook, or there's thousands of recipes on the TACA website just waiting for you to explore. You can go to TACANOW, TACANOW.org, and we'll see you next time at Autism Live.
Bye.
We say hi, we say hi. Let's get wild, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live, and our very special guest in the studio with us right now is Evelyn Gould, and she is a BCBA Board-Certified Behavior Analyst with extensive experience working with children on the autism spectrum, and we love having you here for that, but you're also great at dealing with all the emotional baggage that comes along with autism for everyone, because it really affects the whole family, correct?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we call this segment Making Room with Evelyn because you frequently use the phrase, you say, well, if we make room for all the different things, we need you to pull your mic out just a little bit.
It's not a good shirt.
No.
I don't know that Emily, I don't know if it's going to stay.
Well, there we go. It's all good now. Mine goes underneath my shirt all the time. Emily stays on top of us and keeps us in line so that they can hear us at home. But in any case, we're talking about making room, that you frequently will say, well, if we make room for, if somebody's feeling frustrated because maybe somebody is out there watching right now and they haven't been able to start services is. We just had David Humphrey from Kirkman Labs on, and he was talking about Bernie Rimland's phrase of, start treatment now. And I think we all know that, but sometimes the frustration is you have to get through, this process, right? And you're feeling frustrated. And it feels like that's the only thing that's happening. That's the only game in town, because you get locked into that emotion.
Yeah.
And you frequently say, well, let's make room for the possibility that there's more than that going on, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think sometimes people are a little bit confused or find that really hard, the idea of making room, because it seems like if you make room for it, then it's going to take over.
Yeah.
But the strange thing about making rooms for emotions is that's by giving them the room and kind of stopping the struggle with that stuff, is that it sort of dissipates it, or maybe it just loses power. I think that's maybe a good way to think about it. It kind of loses power once you stop engaging in the tug of war and just drop the rope. Then you're kind of freed up to do something else.
Yeah.
And put your energy in a more productive place.
Yeah. And I think, it's something that I frequently find myself asking is that, you have an emotion and you go, I'm feeling this. And it just takes over everything. I'm feeling this. And in the last couple of years, there have been a couple of times where the emotion that I was feeling, I've said, I just want this to end. And, I certainly have a bag of tricks for ending emotions that aren't good.
Yeah, most people do.
Like, let me sit and watch some mindless television until my face falls off, or let me eat something while I'm watching mindless television, things that aren't good. But when you talk to people sometimes about the emotions that they're feeling, and they say, well, just, never mind that and go on, just do something else, and you want to smack them, right? Because when you're in that emotion, I don't want to go fly a kite. I don't want to make a list of things that I want to do with my life when I'm feeling better.
Right.
I want to smack you upside the head for suggesting that I should go fly a kite. I'm having an emotion. It's not an emergency, but it's an emotion. And I love this idea, though, that you've put into my head of making room for the fact that, yes, I'm having that emotion.
Yeah.
But it's not the only thing that's happening in this moment.
Right.
Because I forget that in the moment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us do.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of where you come from. And so we love it when you guys write in questions that we can answer. And part of the reason why you talk about this, I know you're very interested and learning more and active in acceptance commitment therapy. Tell us what that is.
That's ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy. It's basically, the official jargony way to talk about it is an experiential approach to behavior change, but what that really just means is it's a behaviorally based therapy, although it's really just a lot of techniques. So you can incorporate, you don't have to go and do one-on-one therapy with someone in order to benefit from ACT. You can actually incorporate these types of strategies yourself, and it's a lot of mindfulness based techniques and what we call diffusion, which is really just the strategies for kind of loosening the grip of your thoughts and your feelings over like how you're behaving in the moment, and it allows you to be more effective, and it helps you to identify what really matters in that moment, and then be able to take action to get yourself towards those values that you have, rather than getting caught up in that smog or that like really painful, difficult place and trying to get away from what you're feeling or trying to just like make it stop.
Yeah. And I love the fact that you brought up the whole thing about values and what matters, because, and this is something that you've introduced to me, this idea that when we're having an emotion and it's an intense emotion, it's because there is some sort of value at question. And sometimes it's warring, competing values. And once we put a spotlight on that, I think
can really help you make a decision about how you want to behave in that moment. Definitely. And obviously, like you say, when you're having those really strong emotions, some kind of value is at stake there, but you can lose sight of what that is that really matters because you're so overwhelmed by the emotion or by these like judgmental, hurtful, difficult, not very helpful thoughts that are happening about yourself or the situation. So you really want to try and figure out what is the value, what really matters right now, and then that will help you, first of all, help you deal with making room for those feelings, and then be able to possibly make a more effective choice about how to behave or cope.
Yeah. Hopefully everybody has in their life somebody, my friends and I refer to it as being talked off the ledge. You know, sometimes you're on the ledge and you call a good friend and you say, you know, I'm just really upset. And usually that friend asks you some questions about, well, what's going on? What's happening? And then sometimes you say, well, I'm feeling really frustrated. And they say, well, of course you would feel frustrated about that, because this is a very frustrating thing. You're entitled to feel that way, but you're not going to die from it, right? And you go, oh, that's right. I'm entitled to feel frustrated. And after just talking to them for a few minutes and you talking about it and them saying what you're feeling is okay, you feel you're able to come in off the ledge. You go, all right, this is a difficult moment, but I'm going to be okay. And it's so really helpful. Now, and this is sort of taking that and giving it all kinds of legs and exercises so that we could all be good at that. We could all talk ourselves off the ledge and talk other people off the ledge.
Very much about you being that person for yourself and you being compassionate and being able to look after yourself and take care of yourself and be your own person who's talking you off the ledge, your own best friend.
Yeah.
Very much.
So we had some questions, because we do talk about this from time to time, ACT. And one of the questions that we had come in from somebody over the break, is there any self-help ACT material available for parents? Are there websites, videos, etc.? And I promised that we would ask you that. So is there stuff that we could be using?
Yes, there is. There's a small amount of specifically parent-oriented stuff, and then there's a lot of stuff, self-help things out there, which are for adults in general. So in terms of parents, I would recommend Russ Harris's book, The Reality Slap. Yes. I always get confused about whether it's reality gap or slap, because he talks about both in the book, but I think it's called The Reality Slap, and it's a very small book. It's about this big, and it has like a greeny blue cover. I think it's Trees and Water or something. And it's very short, very easy to read. And he wrote it after he went through the process of his child being diagnosed with autism himself and having his child in treatment and so on. And his kid has done very well. But he wrote this book talking about his experience and how to use some strategies of ACT to help you get through a really difficult situation, like the slap of finding out your kid has been diagnosed or whatever that experience is, and how to get past that. And I think that's a really good one for parents to start with, because it's very compassionate and very easy to read.
And correct me if I'm wrong, it's coincidental that his child has autism.
Absolutely. He is one of the main ACT people, and he started on this ACT path way before he knew his kid was going to be diagnosed with autism. This was very coincidental.
It's like ABA, and people now think ABA has to do with autism, that they're synonymous, and ABA was around long before they found that it worked with autism. And so ACT was around and it is not an autism treatment.
No,
it is not specifically for autism parents. It just happens to be great.
Yes, I think the thing about ACT that makes it particularly great for parents of children with autism is it's really helpful in situations that are kind of chronic and ongoing, and you can't fix them with like normal problem solving strategies that you just can't. It's something that you have ongoing. It's an ongoing situation that you have to deal with, and so the acceptance and commitment to valued action and all those things just very much apply. I think they're really comforting and really empowering, particularly for parents of kids with autism, I think.
But so, yes, particularly empowering is the fact that this book happens to be written by an expert who has experienced some of the same things that we have as parents. He is an autism parent.
And he's very open and honest about his experiences and how he struggled, and he's the ACT expert.
There you go.
And he struggles with emotions and thoughts, and thoughts about himself as a parent, thoughts about himself as a husband. Like, he struggles with all those things, even though he is the expert. So I think that's really helpful, because it just reminds you that this is an ongoing process.
Right.
And there is no quick answer, and there's no being good at it, because you're human. You're always going to have these difficult emotions. You're always going to have these thoughts coming in. It's like an ongoing process then to be better at dealing with them better, and at being a good friend to yourself and being compassionate and all those types of things.
Yeah, so to be clear, you know, a lot like with most things in life, there's no arriving, oh, we're done, we can unpack our bags, you know, oh, I got that act thing together, and I took the class and I've got that and I'm done. No. It is because we're constantly growing. Yeah. And the challenges are constantly different.
Absolutely. It's more like a change in your approach to life kind of thing. Like it's something that you're going to keep in the process of. You're always going to be practicing. It's like a philosophy or something. I don't know.
It's more tools in the tool belt.
It is more tools in the tool belt. And the other thing is that this isn't going to speak to everybody. And maybe some people don't need the extra tools that ACT can bring them. Maybe they have other tools. I mean, I'm not.
I don't know.
But there are some people out there who say don't get stressed or have very effective tools already. And so I don't want to. You know, if you have tools in your toolbox that already work, then that's fine, because ACT is also about workability and being flexible.
Sure. So, I mean, I recently met somebody and they said, oh, my husband never stresses. And I was like, okay. But I think that those are the people that end up getting an ulcer. Because I don't really completely buy it. Yeah, because I do think that everybody has their things that they stress over. Maybe they're different and they have different coping techniques, and maybe their coping techniques are really good. But I think we could all use some help and support in those areas.
I think we can all use extra tools in our toolbox.
Yes.
Because there are situations where maybe it's going to turn up and be useful.
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, for my own self, there's certain things where I dip more into ACT than with other situations. There's particular types of things, and it is more the kind of chronic, I cannot change this situation type difficult feelings that I really rely on ACT much more than, say, other things that are a lot more fixable. Or, it's okay to once in a while watch mindless television if it works. It's not about good or bad strategies, it's about workability. Like, does it work? Or are you actually prolonging the agony, or potentially, yes, it might work in the short term, but you're not getting anywhere in the long term. So you really got to think about that.
Absolutely. All right. We should take a short break, but then we're going to come back and answer some more questions that you guys have written in about autism in general and also about ACT. So, and you can keep the questions coming in. Somebody wrote in a question for David Humphrey, and I didn't see it until after we were off because I'm like that, and I apologize. But we'll make sure that question gets to him, and we'll see if we can't get him to respond via email about that. And I apologize, but keep your questions in. I am keeping an eye on it. Now, stick with us. More with BCBA Evelyn Gould after these messages.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of July, I figured we're going to do something again that's more for outdoorsiness since it's summertime and I know your kids are going to be home and you need some activities to do inside and outside. So for July, I figured we'd make a lantern. So let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are wax paper, an iron, crayons, scissors, popsicle sticks, pencil sharpener, a glue gun, and tape. What I did first is that I have my iron heating on medium heat, okay? Make sure you keep this far away from your child because I won't want them to get hurt. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to take my wax paper and I'm going to make 4 sheets. I'm going to cut out a thing that's about 12 inches long, okay? Now that I have my wax papers cut out, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my crayons, and if you have kids around, which I hope you do, I'm going to grab them and have them make some crayon shavings. What the shavings are going to end up doing is making it a design. And again, this is another time for you and your child to talk about colors. You can discuss like what would happen if you mix, some blue crayons and some yellow crayons. What would that produce? When you and your child have finally decided there's enough crayon shavings on your wax paper, what you're going to do next is you're going to take it and fold it in half. Now that I have it folded in half, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an old newspaper and then I'm going to sandwich it in between. And then with my iron on medium heat, I'm just going to have it gently on there just so the wax melts into the paper and becomes one thing. Let's take a peek inside. As you can see, all the crayons have melted into it, making this beautiful kind of like rainbow-ish color. Alright, now I'm going to do this with the other 3 that I've made, and then we're going to assemble our beautiful lantern. Alright? So here are my 4 finished panels that I'm ready to build into the lantern. So what I'm going to do is I have these popsicle sticks, and I'm going to build them into a square and glue them together with my hot glue gun. While you're building your lantern, it's a good opportunity to work on math skills with your child. You could discuss how many sides does a square have versus how many sides does a cube have. Okay, I'm going to do this another 3 more times, so I have one for every single side. Alright, well, now that I have these 4 different sides built, I am now going to take these wax paper things that I built, and then I'm going to put glue on here and smash it on there, okay? I know the wax paper is way too big for it, but what we're going to do later is trim it. Alright, so now they're all done being glued together. Now I'm going to take my scissors and trim along the outside. Now that the 4 sides are done, I'm going to take some tape and I'm going to line the edge of it so they will stay together to make my cube form. And voila, here's my lantern, but it's missing something. You're right, it's missing a light to illuminate it. So what I'm going to put in here is an LED light. I'm definitely not going to put a real candle or else this thing's going to catch on fire, and that is a real safety hazard, okay? So here's my little guy, and I'm going to turn it on and let's see what happens.
Ooh, look at that. Isn't that pretty nice? And it's not even dark yet.
I would love if you shared your pictures of your finished crafts. But until then, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest here in the studio with us is BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Evelyn Gould, and we've been talking with her about ACT, Acceptance and Commitment Therapy, and you guys had written in a bunch of questions over the break that we wanted to ask Evelyn. One of them is, are there any workshops or conferences for parents on ACT?
Conferences, I'm not too sure that there is, but there are definitely workshops that are run by various ACT people for parents. Mm-hmm. Some of them are specific to parents of kids with autism. Some of them are just specific to parents in general. I think both would be beneficial. I think the way to find out about those is probably on the ACBS website.
Okay.
So that's ACBS. I can get Emily to maybe put it up or something.
Yeah.
I think it's, let me see, contextualbehavioralscience.com.
Okay.
Maybe Emily can look that up and then see if that's the right one.
Contextualbehavioralscience.com. Okay.
So on that website, I think this might answer one of the other questions that came up about how I can find an ACT therapist in my area.
That's our next
because
question.
On this website, you'll find ACT for the public, and then there's ACT for researchers and scientists and practitioners.
Okay.
So the ACT for the public, you can go in and search a list of people on their register who are either specifically all ACT focused or have an interest in ACT. Of course, when you go and find someone in your area, you're going to want to check out their credentials and what they mean by being ACT oriented, whether that's they just have an interest in it and they've gone to a workshop versus they're very highly trained in ACT. Mm-hmm. Then also on that website you should find, I think they advertise events, so you should see advertisements for workshops.
Look at how good Emily is. She's got it on the screen right now. Yeah, she's got it there.
That's it. It's .org. That's the website. You should see advertisements for workshops for parents. I'm trying to think, it's really making me think that we should try and set something up specifically for parents to get information, because I'm imagining that usually parents find out about workshops because it's in their local area and whoever is doing the workshop puts out the marketing just to that specific area. So that if there is stuff happening, you may find out through your provider or through autism groups wherever they're doing the marketing. But you could try the ACT website. I know some people have also, like Lisa came into Skills or Autism Live, and
we interviewed her. Yeah,
she did like a webinar
too.
Webinar presentation. So there are things like that. I don't know.
We're talking about Dr. Lisa Coyne.
I don't know if you have that on your.
I don't know if we have that on our site. Archive. We'll find out who does have it on their site. That webinar that she did about ACT. Yeah. It's on the Skills site.
That's on the Skills site. Okay, we can find.
You can go to the
Skills. She did a webinar through Skills. I'm getting confused because there's so many things happening.
Yes.
So potentially there might be something like that which anyone in the country would be able to watch or attend. Again, you'll find out that through, depending on what their marketing strategies are, but that's what's making me think that we should maybe set up a resource specifically for parents to find out about ACT. I don't know if that's something I could do through CARD. We'll have to, a new project.
A new project, ideas for the future. Because, I also want to say, too, that there are lots of different ways that you can do this with a book. You can get a book and practice it at home. But if you feel like you need some more support, there are, there are webinars and seminars and things that of that kind, classes that you can take.
Yes.
But there isn't... and correct me if I'm wrong, if you just want to get some one-on-one help with an ACT person, you could do that as well?
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. That's where you can go to if you go to the website that Emily put up, you'll be able to find ACT therapists that will work on you one-to-one or as a couple with your partner in a family situation, and you'll be able to get all that information when you look at their credentials and you contact them.
Yeah, because I know when we were in the thick of things with autism that I said, we have regional centers here in California, and families go to the regional center and you qualify for services for ABA and so on and so forth, and you're supposed to ask for respite, and it's supposed to take care of the whole family. So I said, can we get some therapy for us? And the regional center said, I'm sorry, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I want some therapy for my husband and I because this is really stressful for us. And I didn't think it was all that unusual. And they said, oh, we don't do that. We don't. And I was just talking about regular therapy to get through it as a family, to get through it as people, to get through it as a couple. And at the time that wasn't included. And I think more and more people are getting hip to this idea that families need this.
Yeah, I think there should be a general understanding that parents of kids with autism need help and support, because we know from the research that is a particular group of people that suffer particularly high levels of stress. In fact, more distress than parents of other kids with other disabilities.
Yeah, it's not our imagination.
No, it's not
Studies
our imagination,
have shown that we are more
very
stressed.
high rates of marital problems and all depression, anxiety, all sorts of difficulties there. Yeah. So I think there's an acknowledgement of that. The problem has been how parents can access services. Well, and not only but how parents who want it can access services, but how professionals can reach out to other parents who are maybe not presenting with their difficulties. I'm not sure. I think in general it's difficult to get help with mental health issues or couple issues or whatever other than privately, but you can go through your insurance company. I think it's probably seen as more of a mental health medical issue rather than, and that's why the regional centres are kind of that's not something we are providing under this umbrella of treatment related to your child. Yeah. Does that make sense?
It does. And don't get me wrong, the regional center was wonderful to us. We wouldn't have gotten ABA without them, but it just was interesting to me that, and I was a parent who was saying, look, I'm going to need some help here because I was struggling. And I think the vast majority of parents either don't admit it or think that they're going to be okay. I thought in the beginning that I was going to be okay, and then I was not okay.
I think there's two ways that I would like to see it dealt with. I would like to see, and something we're trying to do at CARD is to build ACT into our parent training.
Yes.
So being able to support our parents to benefit more from our behavioural skills training that we're doing with them and teaching them strategies to deal with their kids' behaviour, but building in some ACT strategies into that so that they don't get in their own way, or they're more able to cope with their own kind of mind stuff that's going on in order to better benefit. Yeah. So that's one way, but then there is a point where a parent is struggling so much that is not going to necessarily be enough, and they really need then to be able to go and have a one-on-one therapist. So you need both levels of support, I think. Absolutely. Certainly at CARD, we are hoping to build this into our parent training, but then once it gets to the very high levels of distress, that's beyond our supervisors' capabilities. So that would be a referral to someone else.
Right.
If you are not at that point of needing to necessarily go to a one-on-one person, there is a very good couples book by Russ Harris as well.
Okay.
If you are wanting to work on that with your partner, you can also work on it by yourself. And it's called Act with Love. So that's another tool in your toolbox if anyone's interested in that.
And again, Russ Harris. I think we've talked about. I'm not sure that we've reached out to him to have him on the show, but we need to do that at some point. We need to do that at some point. I know we've talked about it. I'm not sure if we have or not. And I will say too that in talking with Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet, who's the founder of the Center for Autism and Related Disorders, she asks me questions frequently about our experience and as parents and what I feel are important to parents. And of course, I listen to things that you guys say and keep writing things in, because from time to time she asks me, and I tell her my opinion, but I also tell her things that you guys tell me. And I said that I think there has to be a component of it that's mandatory, that it's so hard when there's two people that, my husband has been remarkably willing when I've said, look, I need help, we need to go get this. When I put it in those terms and I say, it's me, I need help. Not saying you need anything, honey, but you need to come with me, then he's remarkably willing. But I know a lot of couples that one of the partners is like, I'm not going to talk to people about what's happening. It's private. I don't want to discuss it. And, the way the parent training is right now, the state won't give you any support through the regional center unless you go through 16 hours of parent training. And I said, I think part of that mandatory time has to be some of this stuff, because otherwise people will say, I don't need it.
Absolutely agree with you. And I think that's a really big missing component. And if we can help parents, say work on values, like identify what really matters to them and help them stay in touch with that, and help give them some tools to deal with these difficult feelings and thoughts. Because not only do you need to be able to deal with the stuff that you're going through right now, this crisis situation, but when you go through the process, as Shannon, you'll know, so you go through the process of parent training and having all these people come to your home and work with your child, all this other stuff is going to come up. And it doesn't stop coming up, and there's research to back me up on this. But the stuff just changes. You get over one hurdle and then something else comes up and something else comes up. And even parents whose kids are doing so well and don't even maybe have their diagnosis anymore, those parents are still experiencing difficulties, and stuff still comes up for them. So it doesn't go away. It's very important that we then it's very important that we give parents tools that will carry them through this whole journey.
Yes, and I can attest to, at every step along the way, there were different things that we had to overcome. I can remember, and my son was doing so well and I was so grateful, but I can remember a day when I was just so furious and frustrated, and the only thing that I could point my finger at, in that now I realize was so many other things, but I was saying, this is so hard having people in my home all the time, and I can't work because I'm here with my child, and so we have less money, and now I got to buy more toilet paper because I have 18 extra people in my house on a weekly basis. And it came down to the toilet paper, and which is not a sane argument, because here these people were coming into my house and saving my child. And in that moment in time, what I was fixating on was, I don't have enough money to buy toilet paper to, take care of all the additional people, because, they come to your house. They're going to need to use your restroom occasionally. It was just a reality. And I remember as we were ending therapy, all the nervousness and trepidation for years, I just have been like, I just want to be like other people and not have to meet people at the door anymore. And then it came, and I was so nervous. And bless Bryce Myler, who works here, whose son recovered from autism a long time ago, who held my hand and before it happened said, it's going to be okay, but this is going to be one of the hardest years. And I went, what? This is supposed to be the promised land. And she said, this is going to be hard because you have to re-get the identity of the family, of who you are when therapists aren't coming to your house. You're now used to having 18 people in your house. And now it's just you and your husband, and you're not parenting by committee anymore. And I was like, all the things I prayed for, now it's going to be hard, but it was. It still is. It's much different now because it's 2 years. But there are different stages. And I listen closely now when people talk about the teenage years, because I go, okay, I'm approaching that.
Yeah, and I think that's the real another real benefit of ACT, is like the whole point of working with someone who's trying to work, or even doing stuff yourself, is to essentially, you're almost training yourself to be your own therapist. So then you will have the tools to kind of go through life without having like these tools in your toolbox that will help you with everything that kind of slaps you up the face along the way.
And we do get slapped up the face along the way. And I also think, too, something that we haven't talked about is that when we have these tools on board, we model them for our children.
Absolutely.
And that's amazing.
And we're hoping to do that here as well by helping our staff, by using ACT with our staff and helping them cope with the stress and the difficult situations that come up on a daily basis, and interactions with other staff members and staff, help them cope better with those so they can get on with doing what really matters and being like the best employee that they can be. We know that people who work in kind of industries where it's about caring for someone else, they suffer a great deal of burnout and stress, and so that will have a trickle-down effect as well to hopefully our families.
Absolutely. Well, and we know that, so much happens in life. There's the day-to-day, as a friend of mine says, the day-to-day mishigosh, just the stuff that happens, the crud, that isn't always the important stuff, but it can weigh us down and keep us from the important stuff. And as you said, we can find how to deal with that so we can get back to the important stuff. Life is more fulfilling. Fabulous, fabulous stuff. Okay, we're going to take a break and we're going to come back. You mentioned, people who don't have access to services, because we've had somebody write in a question about, I cannot afford ABA. I know this is a lot of people's reality. And so they want to know, can I do it myself and will it be effective? So we're going to ask Evelyn Gould, BCBA Evelyn Gould, that question when we come back. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The skills assessment and curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The skills assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the skills assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. Our special guest here in the studio with us right now is board-certified behavior analyst Evelyn Gould. We mentioned before she has extensive experience working with children on the autism spectrum. And we had a question I mentioned before the break. The question is, and this is, very much a universal song. One person wrote it in, but I know we're speaking to many people here. They wrote, "I cannot afford ABA." There's a period at the end of that sentence, and I think that pretty much covers everyone. I really don't know anybody who can afford ABA out of pocket. So please understand that it is not just you. But they go on to write, can I do it myself and will it be effective? I think this is a question that more and more people are asking as we get the word out that ABA is effective at creating progress with all of our kids, regardless of their age and where they are in terms of ability. And then parents ask, how do I afford this? And they realize, okay, their initial response is there is not enough money for everyone. And then you start to figure out, how am I going to be able to do this? So the next question is, can I do it myself? Years ago, the answer was it would have been really difficult.
It would have been, but even a really long time ago, there were some parents who managed to do, I was just talking in the break, and I believe Catherine Maurice did it herself. And she, that was a long time ago. That must have been, late 80s. Early 90s or something. Anyway, it was a long time ago. So parents have been trying to do this themselves for a really long time. And it is possible. It's just really hard. I would have to confirm with Jonathan on the research, but I'm pretty sure the research shows that parents can do it. But it is hard for you to get the same effect as if you have a team of people obviously traipsing through doing, helping you. But it is possible, and it definitely is. You can definitely be effective as a parent. It's just going to be hard, and that may be where the ACT stuff comes in handy, because you have an emotional tie to your child and a history with your child, which makes it just harder. It's just going to be a harder thing for you to be able to then change your role to being a therapist. And the advantage, obviously, of other people like myself coming in is that I don't have that history with your child, and I'm able to, I'm not bringing that stuff to the interaction, and I have a very clear role. But you can learn how to do it, and I've worked with families who have done it themselves, and they've enlisted volunteers who are really great. Sometimes and I'm coming from Ireland, where Ireland is different from the States, and we don't have funding, so these families are paying for it out of pocket, and generally what they have to do is, or they try to raise the money either through a charity. I actually did work in a unit which was purely funded by a charity, and also there's another charity there, but they get help to bring out a specialist like myself to train whoever it is in your family who's going to work with your child, whether it's volunteers or family members, and set up the program, and then you as the parent you're in charge of running the program. And that model can work really well, and we do a version of that at CARD, which is our remote services. And I have also come across parents who don't have therapists. They just it's just them working with their child, and I actually work with a parent in India right now who's doing everything herself, and she is amazing, absolutely amazing. So it is possible, and you can make significant gains with your kid.
Yes. And I think it's really much an individual question, but, and I go back to David Humphrey saying, treatment now, that I think for a lot of people, the question was, am I going to do ABA therapy or not? And we need to wipe that question aside to how am I going to do it? How am I going to do it? How am I going to make it work? And you have to really look at your plus and minuses column and say, what do I have going for me? If you have resources, and we have seen many people enlist a core of volunteers. We have a video that we show from time to time of a little girl in the Midwest, Maddie, who her parents managed to do this with all church volunteers. We've seen other families get sororities involved and who have to have an outreach project for the year, and they take on a family, and all the sorority sisters take turns and come over and do therapy. And as you said, there are some families where that's not in their plus column, and so they're doing it themselves. And I think it really depends on the family, what you choose and what your resources are, but just get it done.
There's a way to do it. Yeah, and there are also some books that are more oriented, more for parents. There's one, Catherine Maurice's book, actually. Her and Gina Green's book, and I forget what it's called. I forget what it's called. I'll have to look it up. But it's a very introductory ABA manual, and it's a little old now, but it tells you explains ABA, the basic principles, how to set up a program, some basic curricula, things like that aren't out there. And there's also web trainings. Skills does free web trainings, I think, every month on various topics. So there's a bunch of resources out there, like Shannon. He's an amazing resource.
Write in your questions. Well, I have access to the people who are resources, so we can ask questions.
You do some really great training during your program on ABA, and you do. So there are a lot of resources there for parents who are trying to do it themselves, and there's support there for parents trying to do it themselves. It is going to be hard, but it is possible.
Yeah. I would also add to those resources the Institute for Behavioral Training. We've talked about them before, that there are very specific targeted trainings that you can buy for yourself and your babysitter and your family and your volunteers. And of course, we talk about skills. And the reason that, well, one of the main reasons why I get so excited about skills is that there is a model that's affordable for everyone. So I know that there is a cost to skills, but for those people who cannot afford skills, Autism Care and Treatment Today, ACT Today, loves to give grants to families for Institute for Behavioral Training and for skills. They have a limited amount of funds, but it's, for them, that's a very affordable thing to give, is a year or 2 year subscription. And I know they're getting ready to enter grant phase. So I have not heard of, and things could happen in the future, but I have not heard of a single parent being turned down who asked for a grant for skills. So,
yeah, I mean, I don't know where that parent who's asking that question is based. But if you're not based in the States, then I would suggest trying to find some local ABA group, or Facebook is actually quite good for that. Randomly. There's like an ABA of Ireland and an ABA of this country and that country, and if you can find that group, then you can usually ask the question of, like, is there someone in my area or someone able to help me set up my own program? And usually you should get a response. I only know about Ireland. Unfortunately, I can't.
But there are things all around the world, and again, Facebook and Yahoo and Cafe Mom and all those other places, they have chat groups where you can ask questions of people. But I want you to know that when I started on this path, on the day that I first went, I should do ABA with my child, I didn't have the ability to start that day. The technology did not exist at that moment in time, but the truth is, for you right now, even while you're figuring it out and figuring out your funding sources and who your volunteers are, you do have the ability to start today. You literally could get a skills subscription and download at least 1 or 2 of the IBT trainings, and you could start today, which is amazing. And I'm incredibly grateful for the fact that we have the ability to do that. Had something you wanted to...
Maybe Shannon and I could work together to put like a resource, just with a bunch of resources, a list of resources for parents who are wanting to learn more and start learning.
Absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I think that's a wonderful idea. We will get to work on that. We're here towards the end of the show, so I want to start by saying thank you so much for being here and for being such a great resource. We're back for the rest of the summer, so you can tune in regularly on Tuesdays to ask Evelyn questions. I know there are a lot of you out there who were asking while we were away, when are we going to have Evelyn back? Because you are like a daily dose of that, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. I'm okay. And I'm going to be okay, which is a wonderful gift that you give us. So I thank you and appreciate you on so many levels, personally and professionally, for that. And also, I wanted to take just a minute to talk about some of the things that we have. I'm holding her hostage now. She can't leave because we're at the end of the show. I want to talk about some of the rest of the things that are going on the rest of the week. Tomorrow, Ask Dr. Doreen, first thing in the morning. And then after that, Let's Talk Autism with Shannon and Nancy. Very special guest tomorrow. Lauren from With a Brush of Love is going to be with us. She sets up sensory environments, and she's a consultant, so that you can create a room that is really conducive for your child, to them being focused, to them being calm, whatever it is that you're trying to go for. So she consults with people. She's been featured on many different shows where they go in and create a sensory-friendly room for a child who's on the spectrum. It's a fascinating field, and so we're really excited to have Lauren with us. On Thursday, we're going to have Julie Kornack with us. We've been talking a little bit about some of the new legislation legislation that's been happening and some of the stuff that's going on in California, some families that are finding themselves without services. And Julie's going to shed a little bit of light on this because it's all a little overwhelming for us. And, you know, it's like a chessboard. You move one piece and the rest cascades, and people are getting caught in the middle. So Julie's going to shed some light on that and hopefully on some things that we can do to help those families that are getting caught in the middle. What we need to say to our politicians so that they hear loudly that kids are being left without services. So she'll be here on Thursday. We'll also have board certified behavior analyst Angela Persicki with us on Thursday. We can be answering more of your questions. And then on Friday, Dr. Adele Nadowski will be here with us talking about real progress and creating real progress. And then we will have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox talking with us about research. So very fascinating lineup of people that we have this week. And I know I've forgotten somebody, that we have another guest on Thursday and I can't think what it is. And I apologize for that, but I'll figure out who it is and let you know tomorrow. But get your questions in order for who you want to ask, and we'll make sure that we cover those topics. We continue to talk about building cognitive skills this week, and as we do that, building success in the classroom. It's the summer, right? And I know we're almost to the dog days of summer, the middle of summer here. So a lot of times it's letdown time. By the way, Emily's going to show you some of the ways you can get in touch with us. But this is a key time to be setting your child up for success in the summer, starting routines and getting your child on a schedule. I know you don't want to hear this, but this is the key time right now. If your child goes back, especially mid-August, getting them very gradually on a sleep schedule. If you're like me and you've gotten off schedule, starting now and doing it by 3-minute increments, you'll get there so that your child's going to sleep at a reasonable time in mid-August and setting them up for success. And there's a bunch of other things that we can be doing to set our kids up for success. So we're going to continue talking about all of those things, but we'll also be taking your questions. We're working our way through the many questions that you guys have left. In particular, there was a question about speech therapy that somebody had written about, and I wrote back. And you asked if we were going to be covering it today. It's Friday that we're going to be covering that. I'm not sure with Dr. Nadowski or Dr. Tarbox, but we'll be covering that on Friday. So what have I left out? I feel like there were so many different things. You know what? I do want to remind you, it's not too late to register for Elysian Fields Farms for their workshop coming up for Horseboy. They're showing the Horseboy film. And there's the website that you can go to register. And then, so that's on the Friday night, they're showing the Horseboy film. And then on Saturday, they're doing a workshop where they're teaching the Horseboy techniques with the Horseboy people. Really amazing. We're out of time, but I thank you so much for being here. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.